Labour's private education tax raid, which is what it's being called, will lead to a deluge of pupils entering state schools. London and the south of England will be hit the hardest, according to new analysis. Apparently, head teachers are fearing this is going to drive up school fees. In several parts of the country, it's been revealed that state schools would run out of space completely within 5 years of the policy being introduced. So, what do you think of this policy?
I think morally, I think private schools aren't charities. Therefore, any sort of VAT exemption seems iffy to me. I think where Labour may run into a problem is delivery, clearly, which is whether this is fear-mongering or whether this is legitimate, that actually schools are going to be overwhelmed. I don't think we've got enough schools in this country. I think that's normally the argument around immigration. I think I'm fairly relaxed about certain levels of immigration. I think there has to be a limit at some points, but you have to have the infrastructure to deal with it if you're going to be like that. So what Labour may run...
But we don't, firstly, and immigration, I think, is the thread that runs through every single public service issue that we have in this country at the moment. But secondly, how do you solve that problem by penalising those people who are also paying into the state school system and paying separately to privately educate their children?
Well, I would say they're making a choice to do that. They don't have to. If they wish to send their kids to state schools, I went to a state school, I'm sat in a studio with you now, some people would say, oh, he's done all right. The idea that you have private school is a shortcut to where you want your kids to get to in life, I don't think is always the right way.
Yeah, but sorry, if you're saying that it's okay then to go to state school, perfectly legitimate position, send your kids to state school instead, the state schools are already under strain. So what is going to happen to that generation? Let's say it all works on paper and that the £1.5 billion gets invested in state schools. By the way, I think that works out at about a quarter of a teacher per school of the number of teachers that they think it's going to pay for. So even by their own calculations, what this will give to state schools probably won't be that much. But let's assume that there is an uplift in state schools as a result of this policy. There is going to be a lag between the money coming in from the VAT on private schools and the state schools getting it, and there's going to be a lost generation of pupils for a few years in between that are going to have to suffer massive class sizes. I've heard of people that send their children to private schools who don't have loads of money purely because of the class sizes of their state school. So you can't respectfully just say, well, send your children to state school, what's wrong with doing that, when it's already when you're advocating for something that would result in more children going to state schools.
And again, I think
more of a strain.
This is going to be about delivery. So and maybe this is why Keir Starmer calls it a decade of renewal. This sort of stuff is going to take time, and I think voters aren't always the most patient. He's going to have to work hard to keep them there. The reason I assume they're already saying, well, it might not be 2025 till the fees come in the first place. I'd expect that to move further back. Then actually we might be getting towards the end of the election cycle when, now the money's coming through, we're going to build X amount more schools. I think this is a policy that will remain in flux for quite some time.
You think I don't think that this will maybe even happen.
I think there's a possibility it could get scrapped. I think you're possibly only annoying your membership as opposed to your voter base. But it's it got Keir Starmer in the position in the first place. A lot of things did that he's not going to stand on, and that might well be the case.
The 10 pledges that he made, many of which were to continue Corbyn's policies, have strangely been deleted from the Labour website. So that will be interesting.